Hello world, my name is Tim Roswick and welcome to another devlog on Cypherpunk, my hacking stealth roguelike. Now, this is a game that I'm trying to get done in under 1,000 hours. That's the goal, 1,000 hours of dev time, and I'm trying to build a hacking stealth roguelike that's true to the stealth genre, true to the roguelike genre. I'm trying to make something mashing in between, and that being said, we got a lot of work to do. So one of the things that I got done that I wanted to share that I thought was pretty cool was this timer thing. So if you look in the top right of the gameplay, you'll see that there's a counter every turn you move up. So that's called the threat level counter. And the idea is that the more you do in these level sections, the more danger you're in. So the longer you stay in a server, the more dangerous it gets. So every turn you move, the counter goes up. When the counter reaches full, the threat level goes up. And when the threat level goes up, bad things happen. Now, I went back and forth on this. The threat level, what should it be based on? Right now it's based on movement, and that's the thing that I added because I wanted it to be there. And so I added additional traps as well, as you can see, like the lightning little traps that are there. And the machines, those are placeholder things, but you can't see them. But also, like, you know, they all interact with each other. So like the exploding barrel will get blown up on the electricity traps and stuff like that. Now here's where we run into problem with procedural generation too, because the more shit you add, the more important the procedural generation is, because the more it has to kind of all work together. And one of the things that I've noticed too is, like, the more stuff that I add to this game, the more confusing it gets because people don't understand it. So one of the things we started working on here was this idea of a information mode. And basically, my goal with this was to make a very accessible game. I wanted, like, roguelikes are really traditionally hard to play, you know, like if you take a screenshot of a roguelike, especially with ASCII characters, or like Dwarf Fortress or any of those games, like, not saying Dwarf Fortress is a roguelike, but I'm saying like games like that, they're very complex to learn, and there's a very high ceiling of people getting into those games. And I wanted to take the beauty of something complex like a roguelike that's ASCII characters and all that stuff, but I wanted to distill it down into something that's bite-sized and easy to play and easy to understand. And ironically, the problem we're running into is my game is not easy to understand at a glance. People tend to tell me that they're looking at the game and they don't know what's going on. So I had this idea of, rather than like try and mess up everything or add too much UI or any of that stuff, I could maybe add like a tab button that would toggle like an info mode that would maybe gray everything out and kind of show you what everything does with dialogues or stuff. And I thought it'd be really cool to just, like, at any point, no matter where you're at, just tab and it would show you literally everything. And so one of the things I'm going through here is actually some feedback I'm getting from the Discord channel, which, by the way, if you want to follow the Cypherpunk journey, I have a separate Discord just for my games that's separate from Game Dev Underground. I recommend you join the Skullbox Studios Discord, because that's where I publish builds and I interact with testers and all that stuff. So if you want to follow the game, that's the best place to do it. As of now, we don't have a Steam page or anything like that up. Which we should. But so I am, I don't know what I was illustrating there, but basically I'm trying to work out the fact that we're running into problems. And so here I'm actually following somebody playing the game. Like, we're actually watching a video of somebody play the game, which, by the way, is the best sort of feedback, is watching someone else play your game. And I'm kind of realizing that, like, nobody knows how to play it. So two main things we got done this week was specifically making things a little easier to understand. So for this overworld map, for example, there are icons there. Bitcoin and the Bitcoin is pretty self-explanatory. Most people know that it's a coin, it's a currency, and they relate it to that thing. But like the health icon, for example, people weren't getting what it was, even though the health icon is up in the top left near your health. People weren't understanding what it was. So, you know, there are a couple ways to tackle that problem. Do you add a legend that kind of explains everything, all the different elements, or do you add some kind of, you know, UI overlay, or do you change the icon, or what do you do? But I realized that, like, I wanted to try this whole info mode idea because I thought it would be really interesting. So that's what you're looking at here, is like, if you press tab, it pretty much shows you all of the information on all the things that can hurt you or you can interact with. And as you can see, it quickly gets kind of overwhelming. So like we're having that problem too. Like, yes, it's cool. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in a game. Somebody said Diablo had something like that, but I'm not quite sure. I don't think I played the original Diablo or anything, but I thought this was a cool concept to follow, and I like to kind of follow my train of thoughts of like to implement the thing to see if it's easy, because like this kind of solves the problem of a tutorial too. Like, what if the game just kind of at any point you could press tab and just the game would show you what everything does and explain it all. So like you could kind of play the game at your own pace and learn the game at your own pace, and I'm just trying to make it visually interesting at this point too, because that's another thing that I added a lot of like pizzazz to it, a little bit of like you know, fading and visual effects and that kind of thing, and I want to make sure that it's solid. But it honestly, I'm not sure about it. Like, when it's only the daemons, it describes them pretty well, but honestly the daemons are probably the thing that need the least descriptor. Like, most people get that, okay, they're enemies and okay, they patrol back and forth. So like one of the things that I changed was there are multiple tabs. You could tab through all the stuff. So you press tab once, you go to enemies, you press tab again, you go through interactables, you press tab again, you go through traps, and you press tab again and it turns off. And that worked better, but like playing it, I still don't think it is something that could like forego a tutorial. I wish it could. That was kind of the objective, is like to make a game that's like so accessible and easy to learn that you don't need it. But like, I don't know, I'm not sure about it design wise, and I guess that's kind of how I've done everything in this game. It's really cool to pretend that you're a game dev and you know what the fuck you're doing, but in reality I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying a bunch of stuff. But as a result, I think you end up in that iterative process of like trying this, sending it to testers, seeing if they change their mind, or seeing if they like it, or seeing how they react to it. Another thing that I've noticed too is that a lot of people don't actually know what they think of it. So like, I have to watch them play and kind of guess what they're thinking, because most people can't actually articulate cool stuff, or like what they're thinking about certain things. Like they'll say things like, this doesn't feel right, or the game feels punishing, or I don't know what to do, but they can't actually articulate the specific problems. Because like fire is a perfect example of that. A lot of people were telling me like, hey, they were the fire is too aggressive, but what they were saying was that when the fire overwrote resources on the map, it would wipe the map, and people weren't happy about that. But the fire is just as aggressive, but they no longer wipe resources, and now everybody's happy. So like, it's weird. The other thing I problem is, this is kind of where I made the decision to go stealth. It kind of was stealth before, but it kind of had the laser thing, and the laser thing obviously again promoted run and gun gameplay. So I kind of took a step back, and I wanted to make view ranges for the enemies. I wanted the enemies to like, because up until this point, when your view range touches an enemy, that's when they wake up. But that was weird, and I didn't realize it was weird, but it was fucking weird. So like, I'm trying to give them view ranges that you have to avoid, because I feel like that's, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I do things just to be unique when I really should do things to make the best game rather than just be unique. So view ranges, even though they're kind of you know, in every stealth game ever, there's a reason they're in every stealth game ever, because I think they're an important part of the gameplay. Like, if you're trying to avoid being seen, the game needs to dictate clearly what it means to be seen. If you play series of stealth games like you know, games like Volume or Metal Gear Solid are like so clear on where the line is to get seen, right? But games like some of the Splinter Cell games have like a meter on like how visible you are, and that's like makes it very ambiguous and hard to figure out. Are they gonna see me? I don't know. We can try this, and it's not as clear. Whereas like, you know, especially Metal Gear, that was a big influence on this game too. Like, you can very clearly see in the radar whether you are going to get spotted or not, and it helps you make better choices, I think, because if that abstraction and that not the abstraction, but like if the ambiguousness is part of the game, okay, but you got to know why design wise, right? Like, you got to have a reason on why it's part of the game. I didn't have a reason, and honestly, this game should be super clear. It's turn-based. I want you to make the right choice. I want you to sit there and think about your choices. I don't want you to just guess. That's not the best way to do it. So as you can see, these little pink squares are becoming the view ranges. Now, we run into another problem here, and that's like, okay, do I show view ranges or do I show the tiles that they can see? And then if I show the tiles they can see, well, what happens if they're all a whole bunch together? It's not very visually understandable, and this, you know, it just becomes this visual mess. It definitely pulls your eye when it's like bright pink like that, but like it wasn't working. So like, I don't know why I chose pink, man. I don't know. I changed the enemies from pink to red. I really like that hot pink. I think it works really well with the color scheme, but like there's some places where it doesn't look good, and I think a perfect example of that is under a red enemy on a blue tile. It's just not working out. So like I'm testing some of these bigger levels to see if that's playable, but it's just it does what it does. It does the job when you know what it is, but the problem is I don't think it conveys what it is properly. Like design wise, it's just not that interesting. Of like, you can't really tell what it is. So I spent a lot of time trying to tweak it and make it better. Like, was it the color? Was it the design? Should it be like, you know, shaded, or like have diagonal lines through it, like a caution tape kind of thing? And it just, I don't know. And that's another thing too, is like you have a view range. So should you be able to see their view range if you can't see them? Should you only see their view range when they're fully visible? Or if you guys have tiles overlapping, should you be able to see that that's an enemy view range but not see the enemy? Or should, if you have tiles overlapping and you see the view range, should it show the enemy? Like, oh my God, this gets, so many design decisions have to get made, and it's kind of insane. Like, it can fry your brain for sure. And so here I'm getting ready to release a build because like I get lost, and I'm liking what I got, but like I need the validation from other people to see like if it works or not, because like I can't tell. And sometimes you lose the clarity of like knowing that something is good for the game or not, because like you are too close to it, you know? That happens quite a bit. So what we ended up with was ultimately kind of just that, like enemies got patrol patterns, and they're highlighted by pink squares, and everywhere in the pink squares they can see, and then when they do see you, they kind of get this little exclamation point over their head, and that's when they start following you. And then as long as they follow you for X amount of turns, and as long as you're in their radius, they keep following you. This was better. This was better than what I had before because it was based on your view range. So having a bigger view range was actually a disadvantage, and I wanted you to be able to see stuff. So as you can see, the highlighted white squares are your view range. So separating the enemy wake up from the your view range allowed me to kind of expand on that a bit. So expand the view range anyway. So it worked out pretty well. Anyway, my name is Tim Roswick. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to know more about Cypherpunk, you want to follow the project, I recommend you join the Skullbox Studios Discord down below. You can get the link and click through there. That is the best way to follow the game at this point. I don't have a Steam page or anything like that, so I would appreciate you there. You can also playtest the build if you want to playtest stuff and give me feedback. I would be very, very appreciative. My name is Tim Roswick, and I will see you again in the next video.